So on this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, we've got another great guest. We've got this guest, you can see him in Legends of Tomorrow, The Flash, Supernatural, The Descendants, and coming very, very soon on our screens everywhere is Corrective Measures with Michael Rooker and Bruce Willis. It's, of course, the wonderful Dan Payne. Dan, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, Brian. Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure, absolute pleasure. And before we start talking about your awesome career, I always ask my guests, and I can't wait till it is a time when I don't have to, but as a check-in, these last 2 years have been challenging to say the least. I mean, how have you kept positive and how have you kept moving forward step by step?
Well, we're diving in deep straight away. Hey, right? Well, I mean, I guess I'll start off with a bang. I suffer from depression, and it's been a tough couple of years, admittedly. And I think, I have an amazing support system around me. So I am trying to stay as positive and optimistic and away from any of the negativity that seems to be brought up by this whole goings on, whether it be the pandemic, whatever it is. I try and I know that it's there. I know it exists. I try not to engage in what always seems to devolve into a negative, you're wrong, I'm right. I just try to stay in the positive of looking for unity and love and in everything. I mean, I feel like that's the best way through it for me. Everybody has their own path, but with a guy who's already kind of coming from behind a bit of a darkness, I want to keep looking for the light. And sometimes getting too deep into those topics to me is a bit of the darkness I'd rather not be a part of.
Yeah, and it's quite refreshing to hear you talk about that because, this stigma with men not being able to talk, and I know that my dad was a proper man, ex-army, hid his fears and his worries, and I think it's very brave, and I think that more people need to talk about their mental health, and they need to talk about what's worrying. I mean, throughout the pandemic, I had to go and see a doctor because of depression, because of the worry this pandemic caused for me as a father on the pressures of looking after my kids and my family. I felt out of control. I felt that I couldn't, protect them as I should do. And, through support and talking to people, I'm glad to say that things are getting better. And which is great. And this is the thing, is that no one should be afraid to talk to people, not to hide it. So it's quite refreshing that, you can talk about that, and I think more men should, because we think it's not macho.
Well, I appreciate that very much, Brian, but it is not an easy and can be a pretty scary step. I know it was for me. I mean, I spent 40 years hiding it and hiding from it and doing everything I could to keep it quiet, and it gets to the point, and it varies for everyone, where I think you can definitely, if you find that strength or that opportunity or that person or whatever it is to talk about it, the other side of it is pretty amazing. And I'm glad I found that.
That's awesome news.
An amazing amount of support on the other side. So I'm still scared sometimes to just bring it up, because there is a stigma that I still feel. You're not allowed to be depressed, man. Like, especially like your dad, a man's man, army, the whole bit. Like, no, yeah, you can't be depressed. You're the tough.
But life is full of pressures. It's full of ups and downs, and it can be challenging the best of times. But I did think the other day, I had my 4-year-old, and I did think to myself, I challenge anyone to spend 10 minutes with my 4-year-old and not leave happy, because literally our kids, I think, put unconditional smiles on our faces, and we're very, very blessed because you've got two yourself, which is awesome to hear. But let's talk about how your career started out, because when I do my research on my guests, it's really cool that you were a pro athlete in volleyball. And when people think volleyball, I automatically think Top Gun, on the beach, hearing the music. But what made you go into volleyball in Holland? I think it was Holland that you went to, wasn't it?
Yeah, my parents were incredibly supportive of kind of whatever we wanted to do. I have a brother and a sister. I'm the oldest, and they were the kind of parents who were like, I'd show interest in something like, oh, do you want to pursue that? Yeah, okay, cool. Let's help you out. No, I don't really want to. Okay, no worry, don't worry. Let's, we'll find your thing. So sports, my whole family's fairly athletic, and they just supported me to enjoy and explore sports, and volleyball just struck a chord with me. I'm not a small guy. I'm 6'4", and in all my, I guess, physical attributes lended to that sport quite well. And it when you like something and you work at it, as with anything, you can find a way to get better. And I really liked it, so I really worked hard at it. I don't think I was the most innately gifted athlete. Being left-handed back in the day and all those little things you can't coach were cool, but I loved it, so I worked hard, and doors opened up. It's one of those opportunity things where, there's a provincial team you should try out for. Okay, cool. Not knowing, where it would lead. Oh, I made that team. Okay, cool. Hey, you should try it for the university team. I'd love that. And on it goes. And then you wake up, you're in Europe going, holy crap, I get paid to play a sport I love. That's pretty awesome.
And what was it like living in Holland? Because it's got to be quite different to where you live before, or where you're from.
A lot of looking to the people who spoke English going, what did they say? But especially with the coaches who didn't, the assistant coach spoke some English and the head coach didn't speak any. So that was confusing. But I loved it. I'm a bit of a nomad at heart, and I love traveling. And I really enjoyed being able to stay there long enough to indulge in the culture and ingest some of the differences and see how they reflect for me to have a better perspective of just how things are outside of my comfort zone. So I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I helped a girlfriend at the time build an apartment. When you buy an apartment there, it's just it's the skeleton. It's just the bones of a place.
Wow.
And you can basically build all of that. So I put in some light bulbs without electrocuting myself and laid some tile without gluing myself to the floor. It was good. I had a lot of fun, a lot of different experiences. And I was young. It was like a great time to just try, maybe fall on my face, but just try.
I mean, what made you then go from being a pro athlete to thinking, do you know what, I'm going to be an actor?
There was I try and joke and say that I was just straight up an attention whore and it was the next phase, but there was something about the euphoric state that you feel when you're performing something to demand, like playing volleyball. I'm in a game and I'm doing this skill that I've worked really hard to do to the best of my ability. And if you get into that zone where there's like a euphoric state of consciousness of all the things that are going around in that sport, and then to have an audience respond to that, good or bad.
Yeah.
The pressure, strangely, I loved that kind of pressure, the performance pressure and the art of performance, whether it be volleyball or in front of a stage. And I think when my body retired me from volleyball, my brother's an extreme extrovert. He's hilarious. And he was living in Australia. And he's like, well, hey, I'm starting a photographic company out here. Come join me and we'll figure something out here. And I was like, okay, let's do that. And it turned into creating shows and performing. And I was like, oh, here we are. Here's the next expression of performance and seeking that euphoric state of connection that I so thrive and crave.
And then you mentioned before we start the interview that you spent some time in London as well. I mean, how was that? I mean, was that good fun? I mean, was that just for the acting part?
It did become so from Australia to England. It was very much a strategic move in a lot of ways. Knowing that I wanted to be an actor, and I've always wanted to perform, and being an actor, I think when we were younger, my brother and I had not joked about it, but just definitely entertained the idea that when it started to become more of a reality, I wanted to take an athlete's approach, like a professional approach to getting to my goals. And that meant learning a lot in a hurry without I mean, when you stumble and fall from volleyball, you start learning in high school, and nobody on provincial teams sees you fall on your face in high school. And when you're in high school or provincial teams, they don't really necessarily see your learning curve at the university level unless they scout you. And if they do, you hope they get a good moment. Well, that same thing sort of applied to me. So if I went to the UK and I fell on my face learning this craft, doing the weekend warrior classes at RADA and taking seminars and things that I could find in the back pages of the local paper or whatever. I just wanted to figure it out and find a way. And it's like going to the gym. I just tried to find a way every day to get closer to that goal. And boy, did I fall on my face. I didn't know my butt from my elbow. But I was passionate about learning, and I did have a persistence born of, I think, the athletic mindset that I'll get there. So yeah, I just ran into walls and tripped everywhere and figured it out in the
But it's good to fail. They often say that, failing isn't a bad thing. It's just discovering a way of not doing something for next time. I mean, looking back to when you were starting out, I mean, what was the biggest lesson that you learned looking back now from where you are now with over, I think, 100 credits to your name, and it's just a credible work, amount of credits you have. I mean, looking back, I mean, what's been the biggest lesson?
I think, I mean, there's so many. That's a really cool question, but there's so many lessons, Brian, that it's hard to pick one. So I can only really give you the one that jumps to mind at the moment. And that was the team idea. I don't think I fully understood how, starting out, that being an actor was very much about being a part of a team, whether that's going to a group of people who are working together in a class to learn the craft. That's a team. You're not individually going there to suck the energy or the knowledge away from people. You're going to share and learn from experience and tripping and falling and face planting together. And that is some of the best learning. And I think early on, I wish I could have gone back and told myself and fully welcome the help from around you. Don't think this is a one-man journey. Just because you're the only person saying your lines, that doesn't mean that everything around you doesn't support and equally be a part of that process. Mm. I mean, that's the early lesson.
I mean, did you have a clear plan of what you wanted to do? Obviously, when you left Australia, did you have a clear plan on what you wanted to achieve in the industry?
It's definitely refocused over the course of the years, but early on, I wanted to get to the point where I could successfully support myself as an actor. Because, again, I'll probably say this a few times, that euphoric state of connection that I crave from being on sets and being in scenes and working on movies and everything to do with this industry, to be able to support myself doing that so that I can forever pursue that, whether it be through class teaching, now teaching and taking classes and studying, learning and reading up. That time freed up because of being able to earn a living doing that, I felt was going to perpetuate itself. So early on, it was about getting to that goal. But incrementally, I knew that it's not like, I knew like you couldn't go to the gym and suddenly I'm going to be able to lift 300 pounds on the bench, right? If I've never benched before. So I knew there was a process there, but I just sure as hell didn't know where it was. And it's individual. That's the thing. It's unique and individual. Everybody's path to whatever you need to be success in acting is pretty unique.
I mean, can you remember your first audition that you had? Was it a good audition or was it absolutely terrible?
It was tragic. It was tragic. I mean, I had a great attitude and zero idea where I was or what I was doing. And it was a commercial sort of, I guess, thank goodness. But they walk in and like, would you mind standing on the mark? And it was in England, right? The first audition was in the UK. And standing on the mark, I didn't even know what a mark was. And I literally was on the cusp of going, I'm sorry, who's Mark? Like, it's just zero idea. So I'm standing there like smiling, like, hey, we're just happy to be here. And they're like, yeah, would you just please stand on the X? And then we went slating. I'm like, what the hell is slating? So the learning curve was pretty steep. But I just knew that I wanted to do that for the rest of my life, whether it be through commercials to film and television and theater, or through theater to film and television and whatever. It didn't matter. I was going to find a way.
Do you enjoy auditions now compared to back then?
I do. I absolutely do. It's an opportunity. And when I teach, I kind of try and explain that if you don't see an audition as a gift, then there's a problem. The audition is an opportunity for you to invest all that you've learned and all your process into a blank slate of like there's a template, but the blank slate is that you haven't injected you into it yet. And to create your own specific, unique audition based on the information and the gold you can mine from that audition. That's pretty exciting. Like that's a cool, exciting event for me. Whereas before, without a process and without a foundation of awareness on how to break down scenes and to mine for that gold, it was just like, oh shit, I hope I get this right. And again, learning that there is no right or wrong is pretty cool.
I've noticed as well on your IMDb, you do a lot of stunt work, and obviously the acting. Which do you prefer? And also, I've seen on your IMDb that you've got Predator on there as well. Please say you was a Predator.
I was, but
yes.
We'll get to that. It's pretty unexciting, but I much prefer acting. I'm 1,000% more actor mindset, but because of my physicality, my athletic background, I was afforded the opportunity through the kindness of stunt coordinators and other stunties, the opportunity to do stunts and perform in the stunt world. And I do have an affinity for it because I think the athletic career gave me an ability to be in touch with my body enough to perform. But those opportunities were literally born of the kindness and generosity of stunt coordinators taking a chance on me and going, all right, yeah, we need a 6'4" guy, and you seem like a nice enough dude. Let's hope that you don't suck. And I have such a fear of failure that I would make sure that I didn't suck. But it's hard work, and those stunt guys and stunt coordinators are unbelievably gifted athletes and performers that do things that actors wouldn't, couldn't, or shouldn't do. And to be able to, just play in that world to the extent that I did was super exhilarating, but eye-opening in that I was visiting more than, like, I like to say I'm an actor who has had the good fortune to do stunts, because I never want to take away from the incredible work that stunt performers do.
I mean, we had Daniel Cudmore, who on the show a while back, and he was talking about working on Alien versus Predator. And I've had Ian White on the show, and Brian A. Prince, and quite a few. It's literally all the tall people in show business I've had on the show. So I'm looking for the short ones next. But obviously fans will recognise you straight off the bat from The Flash, which I've got to say is one of the best shows on TV, and it's probably one of the most successful CW shows, alongside of Supernatural. What was that like playing King Shark? Because it's just an awesome character. It really, really is. And I wanted to know if you'd be asked, would you come back to play the role? Because the show isn't showing any signs of stopping.
Well, yeah, let me just answer that one bit right away. In a heartbeat. I'd be back in a heartbeat. In fact, I'm hoping they somehow find a way. And it was an honor to play King Shark. I love the show as well. My kids, my older boy definitely enjoys the show. He's 13. And Grant, I just, the whole, like the cast and crew, they've worked together for a lot of years. It's a well-oiled machine. And I use these terms a lot, but when they're relevant, and they're kind of like a family in that they all look out for each other. They poke and jest and they have fun, and they get through these long days because of that environment. And when you sometimes step into a show, you can feel like the outsider. You can feel a little bit, not on purpose sometimes, but you feel a bit ostracized or a bit alienated from that family. Grant is a pure and true number one. I did have the good fortune I walked around in the Gorilla Grodd stunt gear on stilts on that show. And because of my history as an actor, they started to allow me and encourage me to do the lines so that they weren't just acting to a big puffy outfit on stilts. And I don't know if that created the relationship that led to Shay Lambden and King Shark, but it did lend to the fact that when I showed up, there was a very welcome environment for me, and I felt extremely comfortable. And I think because of that comfort, I could just enjoy the process and be thankful to be Shay Lambden on a really cool show with an awesome group of people. And Tom Cavanaugh, who I got to work with on Corrective Measures, is hilarious and almost too supportive. Like, he is so generous. You're like, wait a minute, you got to look after you too, don't you? Because he is so kind. He is so, and he doesn't forget a dang thing. Like when he showed up on Corrective Measures, he's like, hey, Dan. And it's like, remember when we were talking about this? And I was like, oh my gosh, you remember that? Yeah.
So you've got to be careful around Tom on what you say, because he won't forget. I mean, the story arc in the Flash for your character is such a lovely story, and I would absolutely love to see more and see him come back, because obviously he's transformed back into King Shark to obviously, you know, save the day, and now he's with Argus in a nice tank apparently. But no, it would be nice to see that character come to life again, and hopefully you will get that phone call.
I'd like to see him. You know, I'd like to see that love story have a chance. And Libby is. Well, I had the great fortune of. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say what I did with Libby, but anyway, I got to work with Libby again. She's exquisite, and I think it'd be fun to have that, you know, that love story have a chance where they figure out a way to give him human form again, and maybe he helps the team or come. I don't know. It'd be really cool. There's so many options, and it's, you know, the multiverse factor of it all. I'd be pretty excited.
I think she's in. Is she in Virgin River? I think she is now. Isn't she? Is it Libby?
Neither confirm nor deny.
So, I mean, obviously, these characters, you're on screen acting, and then there's a lot of CGI. What's it like to see the finished article on screen? Because that must be so surreal, because you're on, you know, the set with dots or you know, with puffy costumes, as you described. What is it like seeing the finished article?
Let's not forget the unitard. That's always a wonderful
unitard. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's very revealing. So I've had the good fortune as well to be a lot of different aliens and creatures with the prosthetic makeup fully applied to my face, and to see that transformation firsthand and in a tangible way is mind-blowing. So I don't get to see this CGI conversion until I get to see the episode. And having already had the chance to see King Shark in his full glory, I just was really excited to see how cool it would be to transform from me into King Shark. And that scene was really neat, to see that full transformation and the CGI come to life, because it was really well done. And I think that's one of the best fights on TV that there's been. Definitely. And the effects, I've got to say, I mean, if you look like 20 years ago, it shows the effects were good for their age. But I've got to say, the effects on The Flash are just absolutely amazing. They do such a stellar job. And this is the thing, I like to shout out all the people that work behind the scenes, the stunt crew, the you know, special effects, the people that are behind the camera that makes, you know, the magic happen, because it is obviously, you know, the actors that get the center stage, but
the hard work. I mean, I love watching films and watching the end credits and just seeing how many names are on there that we don't really see.
That's awesome to hear because, as I've been doing this for a while, one of the most, and maybe this is something I could tell to the younger me starting out. There's not one person on that set that doesn't have equal value. There's no, I truly believe this because if you don't, then you're missing the point. We're all there to do our job. And if one person isn't able to do their job, that is a part of the machine that makes that end product happen. So I really enjoy being a part of that team. And I guess it goes back to the sports mentality, but that's a team and every team member has a job and that job is equally important. And I'm not trying to negate anybody I just don't think you should, I am negating diva-ness. Like there should never be anyone thinking they're better than any one part of it. People that, the director might get loud and start barking at people, but it's not out of a condescending, I'm better than you. It's this machine needs to do its job sooner. We're running out of time. And it's just a part of keeping the machine oiled, but it's not the hierarchy shouldn't shift to like, you're lesser, I'm yelling at you because of that. Go do your job, peon. I love being able to say hi to everybody. The guy that I see when I'm parking my car in the crew park in the morning. Thank you, brother, for making sure that I don't have a distraction of whether my car is getting jacked or not, so that I can be fully present for my job. Thank you, person changing the garbage, so I don't, throw crap on the floor and then feel guilty about it. Like, it's just every single piece of that thing is working towards that end product. And so then when you watch it, you can be proud about the end product, not about your performance or anything else. It's just kind of like, damn, we did a good job.
And it makes me feel that the set of Flash is very much like that. That everyone just seems so nice and so down to earth. I think it'll be an awesome project to work on. I've got to say as well that your kids must absolutely love your work, because when you said he's 13, literally, does he go to school and say, my daddy is King Shark, or my daddy is Obsidian, or he must be so proud.
It's a strange dynamic with my kids. I know they're proud of me, and I know they think it's kind of cool, and I think because they grew up with it, that they don't see it like other kids might see it. And not strangely, I think rightfully so. The biggest one that the kids see him, I have a 10-year-old boy as well, is when Descendants was at its peak and I dropped my kids off at school. There's multiple times which were so, like, it's just such a fun little ego boost and makes you feel good. A bunch of kids would run up and go, excuse me, but are you the King Beast? And you're like, oh, hi. Yeah, actually, I am. And they're like, and they run away or they ask questions or whatever it is. And I'd look over at my two boys and they'd just be looking up at me with this, like, but you're just dad. Like there's there's a disconnect to the external for others because it's an internal for that. It's just what dad does. And I have been very fortunate to take them to sets and meet their favorite characters and different opportunities like that, which I think maybe demystify that whole experience.
And I bet you get lots of invites to children's parties.
I've it's Descendants again, but I had a buddy in the UK who was like, hey, like a good friend who I stayed with there, and he goes, hey, my kid's daughter doesn't believe that I know you. Would you mind FaceTiming for a minute? And I'm like, yeah, no problem.
Bless.
Some street cred.
I also read as well that it really made me laugh, and I could so relate to this, is that I read that when you starred in Legends of Tomorrow, the biggest challenge for the role was figuring out who Obsidian was. I read that. And, you didn't know straight away who the character was. And do you know what? In all defense, I'm with you. There's so many superheroes out there. I mean, what was that like to work on? Because again, you've gone from one great show to another and played Obsidian. I mean, what was that experience like?
So that's quite an ensemble cast, and it was a bit different in that that cast and crew was very friendly and very fun to be around, but they all had their own, like they were all pretty established with other things that were going on. So there was less like hanging out and chatting. But they were all very friendly. Like Dom was just awesome. And then you can sense his presence. He's one of those guys that just has an immediate presence. But not intimidating, just very strong presence. And it was nice to be around him and watch him work and see there's so many different approaches to the craft as well, to be able to see them all do their characters, because they were more distinct characters, I feel, because it was a different vibe, that to see them bring their characters to life in the different ways that they did that was really cool. One of my favorite things about being on a new set or any set is to learn, to sponge and learn from everything going around. I'm even, I never used to worry about or concern myself with what lens they were using or why. But now if I'm by the camera and I'm off camera and they don't seem too stressed, I'll ask, the cam ops, what lens and why does the DP want that? And it's amazing kind of being able to peel back some of the layers and learn more and more. So that experience for me was, I think the biggest thing I remember is the kind of the opportunities to learn and watch craft in a different light.
So is that something that you'd want to get more into? Because learning about lenses and photography and filmography is definitely a rabbit hole. Like literally, I mean, I watched a documentary about Zack Snyder when he filmed Army of the Dead, and literally I was just astonished that he got his lenses from eBay and he got them rehoused, and that's what he used. And the reason why there was a dead pixel on the screen is because one of the lenses had a fault with it, but he wanted to keep it because it added a bit of, goochos to the project. I mean, is that something that you want to get into more in the way of directing and making your own movies or TV shows?
That's a really cool piece of trivia. Yes and no. At the moment, it's more of a learning every angle and aspect of the craft that I love so that I can better understand what I'm doing. So if I can hear that they're using a 25 mil, I know that that's the specific reason for that shot is to get this. So I might adjust my performance to best suit that lens, knowing that that's going to make it a more grounded and truthful take. I think it's trying to expand my capacity to be a complete actor within all aspects of it. But you're right, that is a rabbit hole, because I do want to, I'm tending towards producing because I want to have a creative control over the content I'm a part of. And ultimately I want to work with friends. As I get more experience in the industry, is that the people getting older?
Yeah.
So yeah, I do want to be a part of the creative process on the other side of the camera, but not yet directing. That hasn't called to me yet. I understand that there's definitely a seed planted from exactly what you're talking about a curiosity about camera placements and lens usage and some of the light options they use and why. The curiosity, and again, I think it's coming also from the fact that I feel more comfortable in my craft to be able to ask outside of just getting my job done, and it's hopefully helping improve my ability to do my job.
Well, we've got something to look forward to in the future then for your future projects. I mean, have you ever turned down a role? Have you ever said, no, that's not for me, I'm not doing that?
I have, and it didn't come around right away. I would do anything and everything because every credit and every opportunity was something that I felt I needed, and it was a learning opportunity, and it was paying bills and all that. I've been with the same agent for 20 years now, Eric, here in Vancouver, and I absolutely adore him. He's not only my agent and business side of this thing, but he's a friend. And because of that, I know that there's a few opportunities that came around that we would discuss sometimes ad nauseum, just to the death, trying to figure out whether it was something we wanted to do to have our career, my career, through with his guidance, adjust to that job. Sometimes you do a job and you start getting more jobs like it, or you get seen in that light, or it's more difficult to be seen in a different light. So integrity has always been something that I'm trying to, as best I can. It doesn't mean it's always an option. But some jobs, there was definitely a lack of integrity to the character, or what they were asking that character to do, or the part of the story that was being told wasn't. It was sensationalist rather than creating conversations to better make a situation better. It was just a sensationalist use of that element that I didn't want to be a part of, I didn't want to be associated with. So it's not very often, but Power of No is relatively new for me, and it's because my agent's been so gracious to help me understand what it would mean to say no, and how that impact can be very positive, even though it's a negative, like a saying of no.
I mean, what's been your proudest moment in your career to date?
You're dropping the big ones, Mr. Garner. Proudest moment.
Okay, what's your favorite color? No.
Right?
Yeah.
Blue. No, red. Monty Python. I think the proudest moment was, I don't know. The very first time I booked a job where I was able to say I am a professional paid actor was ground zero for where I'm at today. And as we said earlier on, discussing what my goal was, it's to be able to be a financially viable provider doing the job that I love, to whatever extent, in a big way or in a getting through the day type of way. But that first job, that first time that I auditioned, was booked and cast in a show where I knew I was going to collect a paycheck as a professional actor, as a credit that would be recognized. I remember that being as much as it was a scary and intimidating moment, also an extremely exciting, and I was very full of pride. I was very proud.
And at what point did you, think to yourself, actually, I'm actually really good at this. This is definitely, my career, for the rest of my life. I mean, what point of your career did you feel, actually, I'm actually quite good at this?
I'll let you know when I get there.
Oh, bless you. Well, the thing is, I suppose, I mean, you've got so many credits to your name. I mean, obviously, that must be a testament on, your ability and your talent. So take it from me, you're obviously very, very good, and we enjoy watching you on screen. But okay, so let's talk. So we'll change the subject.
That's very kind of you. I just feel I don't want to sound, disconnected or too humble or unaware. I love that objectively I've been able to impress, I guess is the word, people enough to continue to do what I absolutely love doing. And that said, there's sometimes when I'm like, oh, I'm proud of that. I think I did a good job there. But it is so subjective, and it is tough with a guy who struggles with depression for me to ever go, yeah, I'm good at this, and I always feel like I have to be pushing. I always feel like if I'm not pushing, I'm failing, I'm behind. Like there's a wave of failure behind me, and an opportunity for success ahead of me, and I'm always striving to get to there before the one behind me crashes over me. So I don't think I'm ever allowed to go, yep, I'm good at this and I'm allowed to be here yet. I'm trying, I'm working, I'm doing all the work because it's a really exhausting freaking state to be in. But I'm really grateful for you saying what you said, because that's something that I will take to heart to continue to fuel the tank to keep going,
Yeah.
As I work internally.
Yeah. I mean, as fans, we rent, we pay, and we watch these programs with joy. And what you do, I think, is fantastic, because it gives us that bit of escape, from reality. Especially the last 2 years, it's been great to see shows on TV and to binge watch past shows, to escape from, all the troubles and everything like that, and find a bit of, solitude in, certain shows, which I think is fantastic. Have you got a dream role that you've always wanted to play?
Yeah, there's always. I don't know that it's been written. It's kind of a hybrid of multiple characters, but the interesting connection to Bruce Willis is that his diehard character defined cool for me growing up. That's why getting to work with him and meeting him was pretty mind-blowing, because a swashbuckling, charming, smart-ass guy who could kick some ass really appeals to me. I mean, it's...
James Bond, maybe?
Yeah... That guy's pretty classy. I'm still looking a little lower brow for me. But who would say no to James Bond? I'm sure somebody has. But I would be excited to do a character that had some action, some levity, a little bit of comedy, some smart ass remarks, and a heart of gold. Like, there's in everything, there's always, I think, the joy and connection comes from the vulnerability. So I'd love that character as much as he's maybe a smart talking butt kicker. Have a vulnerability and a heart.
And talking about Bruce Willis, so I don't know how much we can talk about this, but Corrective Measures, what a cast! It's got your friend Daniel Cudmore in it as well as Michael Rooker and Bruce Willis. If you could tell us a bit about this film, what it's about, and who you play, and do we know when it's coming out? Is it May time? I think it is.
Yeah. Well, right now I feel like they're almost ahead of the game, so they're looking at late April, but if not, for sure May.
Oh wow. Yeah. So if you can explain what the movie's about and who you play in it.
Well, it's. I mean, this was an opportunity of a lifetime that I'm still kind of reveling in the experience of. But it's set in a state-of-the-art penitentiary, where all the worst criminals in the world are housed. And they are criminals that have had superpowers to some extent, because there was a pulse that went over the world that either killed you, gave you superpowers, or distorted and melted or ruined you in some way, shape, or form. And of that, the good people used their superpowers for good, and the bad became super criminals. So this prison was born to house those super criminals, and they found a technology that could take care of that. But with the injection of a certain character, my guy, Payback, the prison it descends into a state of chaos, because I am a vigilante character who's bent on justice and eradicating the world of all of these criminals. And I get to say some of those lines, and I get to, fight and kick some butt. And I got to work with friends. I was really, so Sean O'Reilly, who was the executive producer, writer, and director, is an amazing man. His intellect, his awareness of the industry, and they work for Arcana, that he's written graphic novels. He's fully immersed and aware of cartoons, comics, and graphic novels, and I think really brilliantly converted into a movie, this Corrective Measures graphic novel. So Payback is the vigilante ex-military guy who, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give the whole thing away. It's a popcorn movie. Like, it's unapologetically a ride that you go on. We're not dealing with, greater conversations about politics or anything to that extent. We're about having a good time and going on a ride, and maybe having a laugh along the way.
It sounds awesome, because on IMDb it's got nothing on there about superpowers. So I was like, what? That sounds awesome. So obviously with Michael Rooker and Bruce Willis, what was it like sharing the screen with them. You know, what were they like? Because I know Michael Rooker, I was listening to a interview with him, and I'm not sure if I'm right. Is he partly deaf, or he had an injury, didn't he? He got knocked out. So I know when he goes to conventions, he's got to really work hard at listening, bless him. I mean, what was it like working again with Tom Kavanagh, Daniel Cudmore, and obviously good old Brucey?
Well, Dan, I with Sean being so wonderful, and once I knew that I was playing Payback, so among the top billed cast with Bruce, Michael Rooker, Kevin Zegers, and myself, and then there's Brennan Maya and Haley Sales kind of rounding out the top, and then there's a few more characters with very big and important integral roles. It was like, how do we cast this and stuff? Sean was very kind to let me kind of chirp in his ear to involve Cudmore and some other friends that I know are phenomenal talents that are gifts to the movie. And it's really cool because, again, Sean's so collaborative. It came about. And then Tom Kavanagh, yeah. I don't even know what to say. He's a great dude. And he can craft character with such precision. It's amazing. But Michael Rooker, oh my goodness, what a character in real life. What a personality. He's a storyteller. He's exuberant, fun. He doesn't give a shit about, he's not a bull in a china. Well, he's kind of a bull in a china shop, but in the most endearing and charming possible way. I just loved being around him. I loved listening to his stories. I loved watching him work. It was really cool. Guardians of the Galaxy is one of my favorite movies. And if I get asked what superhero do I want to be, it's Star-Lord. It's just that. It's simple. And so I'm a big fan of his way before, but obviously Guardians of the Galaxy, the most recent thing for me personally, was like, holy crap, that's him right there. And then Bruce Willis, I think we kind of touched on that. He defined cool for me growing up. And we filmed the first two, good portion of the movie in Vancouver. And I'm so glad we did, because I had time to settle in to the fact that I'm making a film and that I have to do my job and be this character before meeting Bruce Willis and Michael Rooker in Atlanta when we filmed out there. Because I think if it would have been right away, there might have been an element of starstruck. They're colossal talents and pillars of the Hollywood world. So to meet them and to be able to work with them and know that I have to be able to hold my own and carry if I had done that out of the gate, I think there might have been some intimidation, no matter the fact that I've been doing this for 20 years. I just would want to represent the opportunity of being in a film and in a scene or scenes with them as best I could. So I had the 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it was before getting to Atlanta to settle in and go, okay, I can do this. I've been doing this long enough that I'm going to meet him. I'm going to have my little moment, my little fan moment, and then I'm going to drop into work mode. And it's like an athlete in some regards. I mean, I keep going back to that, but it's been a really important and integral part of my.
I mean, actors like Bruce Willis has definitely molded a lot of people's, younger years with Moonlighting, which was awesome. Yeah. Absolutely amazing series, and obviously Die Hard as well, which to this day I swear is a Christmas movie. I don't care what anyone says. It comes on every single Christmas. It's just fantastic. But what's nice to hear is that, I think fans need to understand that these stars are normal people. They've just got a different sort of job as me and the next person. They've all got different challenges. But they're normal people. I think that I used to get starstruck quite easily, and I think it's because of that separation from, seeing them on screen and actually seeing them in person. And I suffer from a stutter. I had speech therapy for like 8 years for a stutter. So I used to not be able to get a sentence out. So that sort of changed, and this is what's great about having people like yourself on, that we see on screen, we enjoy watching you, and we get to know a bit of you, Dan, and what you're actually like, in real. So what I wanted to ask is when you're not working, when you're not, thinking about work, how do you relax? What is a day off for Dan look like?
It involves my kids. It's immediately it's family for me. Both my kids play hockey and baseball, and they're at the ages where I can coach both of those sports, having played them quite a bit growing up and having the experience of being coached by some of the most amazing coaches in the world. I just love being around them. So if I can be around them and invest in their love of sport or their learning to try or pick themselves up after not being as successful as they wanted to, and just be a part of that learning curve and that growth, has been exquisite. So my days off are usually driving to a rink or heading to a baseball diamond, or my youngest one, he still loves Fortnite and I suck, but when he's like, Dad, you want to come play? I'm like, yeah, let's go. And then we can have Operation Resurrect Old Man or whatever they have to do in that game be the focus and have some fun. It's and my wife's right. She's the one that organizes everything. If we're going to do something, it's because she put it together. Thank goodness.
Don't you just hate being that certain age where you're playing computer games and you're just getting knocked out by 12-year-olds right, left, and centre? And I play 6. I try and play a game called PUBG, which I absolutely love. It's like the adults version of Fortnite. The best way to describe it, but I think I'm getting to the point now where, computer games are definitely far behind me now. I've got to concentrate on other things.
We had those 2D, pixelated games that I thought were the greatest things on the planet. They were the
Ping where it went up and down, and just like one thing. But you're very lucky having 2 boys as well, because I've got 2 little girls, one 8 and one 4, and literally my house at the moment is filled with Encanto on repeat. Time and time again, so which I don't mind, because it's an awesome film. It really is.
Where's Bruno?
Hey, we don't talk about Bruno.
We don't talk about
no, we don't talk about Bruno. But Dan, you've been a great guest. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Lastly, you were in a show called Divine, which I've been desperately trying to get hold of, to see where I can watch it, because it looks awesome. It really does, and I can't find it anywhere.
I know there's a website. I will try and the creator writer Ivan Hayden, who's a genius. I love this show. There's still a bit of heartache around it for me, because it was given such a quick and short chance. To the story behind it and where the writers were taking it was so good, and I still hold out hope that they might find a way. But I do hope you get a chance to see it, because it is so well crafted, and what a fun character to play an immortal. I will find out. There's a website I know that houses the episodes. I think there's 6 of them.
It just looks amazing. The story and the trailer is literally up my street. So so once we find out where we can watch it, I'll put it on the description of the video below, so people can actually see. And lastly, do you ever Google yourself on the internet?
I haven't until about, I think it was 6 months ago. One of my wife's friends said, "Hey, you realize your husband's worth $212 million?" And she's like, "What?" So she sent her an article or something from the web that said, value, blah, 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 married. And then it said has suffered, I don't know, all kinds of stuff in my life. My wife was like, "What is this?" So she brought it to me. She's like, "Hey, where's all the money?" And and I was like, "What?" So we decided to have a little fun, and we did. We Googled and we did a little deep dive, and it was hilarious. It ranges from he's broke, lived alone with his dog, and had an affair, and is on the streets, to is worth 212 million, happily married, and owns a house in Monaco or whatever. It's unbelievable how skewed and bizarre.
And what I wanted to talk about, you've got a great array of pictures, some really nice modeling ones and everything like that. There's one picture, and there's a story behind every picture. Literally, you know what? We're going to leave this interview on literally on a high. What is the story? Because I literally told my wife who I was interviewing, and I went onto Google and I put your name and I pressed on images, and that came up. And literally, she was like, "What?
What is he doing?"
Yeah.
So I played a bungling dad in a series called Alice, I think, here in Canada. And his best friend owns a sporting goods store, and he, in one of the episodes, loses his model. And then he asks me to be the model for the sports gear. And it's a terrible, the shoot is awful, as you can see. Anyway, this scene specifically, and what's going on there is I'm modeling swimwear, and in that moment I look down and I go, "Hey, have these been washed?" That's the capturing the moment of me wondering if these things that I've been wearing are washed.
And the internet, you can't hide from it. It's available everywhere. I'll take that off the screen now before we say our goodbyes. But it just made me chuckle, because I think that, you know, once you become famous and once you become an actor, literally, I can understand, you know, why so many actors want to have their privacy, because literally people expect everything from you. They expect that it's their right to delve into your business, delve into your home life, and stuff like that. So as long as that's the only sort of images that we've got on the internet, we're doing all right. So, but
I'm
Dan,
not sure I'm at that level yet. I'm fairly either I'm very shielded from it, or I'm just, or people are just very nice for some reason to me. But I haven't yet arrived at the stage where I'm, worried about getting caught peeing in a mop bucket or something.
No. But Dan, you've been a great guest. You look after yourself. Keep safe. All the best to the family. And I look forward to Corrective Measures. And I'll make sure that I'm plug in that, because it sounds awesome. Great cast. So end of April, beginning of May.
Yeah, on Fox Tubi. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for the wonderful conversation. I appreciate it. You're awesome. And the opportunity to chat about Corrective Measures is really cool. I'm excited about it.